It's a tablet.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 17th public session of the Board of Commissioners this Tuesday, September 6, 2016. I will ask Mr. Secretary, would you please take the roll? Oh, excuse me. Prior to that, we did have an executive session this evening. The Commissioners did meet to discuss two real estate matters and a legal matter. Then we went into the public hearings, and now we are at the work session. Mr. Secretary, would you please take the roll?
Certainly. Mr. D'Amelio?
What's the vote on?
We're just taking roll, sir.
Oh,
Mr. D'Amelio is here. He must be in the back room. Mr. McCluskey?
Here.
Mr. Siegel?
Here.
Mr. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Holmes is not here this evening. Mr. McGarity?
here.
Mr. Wexler?
Here.
Mr. Oliva?
Here.
And Mr. Connell?
Here. Will everyone please stand if they can, and we'll ask the Chief to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And again, welcome this evening. We have several presentations this evening, as well as discussions of ordinances and resolutions. So first, I would like to bring up, Mrs. Widdop, you have a construction manager's update for us?
I have a construction manager who can update you.
Yes, ma'am, but since you're our go-to person, I'm going to go to you, and if you would please.
Very well. We have two gentlemen here from Reynolds Construction. You should have received on your computers a copy of the monthly report through August 31st. So I'm not sure who is speaking, if it's going to be Tom or Ryan. Okay. This is Tom Prosciutti and Ryan Brennan.
Hi.
Good evening.
Well, if you open your report up past into where it says page past executive summary, this summary is for up to, as Lori said, up to August 31st of this year. The project has been under construction for approximately 9 weeks, and there are 54 weeks remaining to accomplish a substantial completion date of September 17th, 2017. Through August 31st, $1,134,743.40 have been submitted for payment, not including retainage, on a total construction contract amount of $14,097,757. This represents about 9% of the total cost of the project to date. Through August, the Township of Haverford has $151,393.63 of potential changes or claims against a contingency of $530,000. This is a 28% exposure on the contingency. Please note the cost issues 01 through 05 are new to this month's report. The following summary of change orders is presented. Approved by the Township Board Administrative previous meetings, there's 0 issues. Amount of approved change orders, there was 0. And extension of time granted was 11 days. Recommended to the board is 1 issue. The amount recommended cost issue is $22,673.75. And then total previous cost issues were 0. Total new cost issues, there's only 1. And of course, it's that $22,673.75. Schedule general update. Please find attached the baseline schedule that has been submitted on October 2nd by E.R. Stubner, the general contractor.
Next month.
This schedule has been rejected and requires updating of the other prime contractors' activities, including as well as other revisions. On Monday, August 29th, Reynolds gave E.R. Stubner a 5-day notice to complete the baseline schedule per the comments that have been made. Reynolds issued no cost extension of time change order to all prime contractors, extending the completion date of the project 11 days for a revision to the new completion date of September 17th, 2016. Cost issue number 2 is being brought forward for the board approval. This cost issue is due to the location depth of the gas line at the stadium, which nobody knew where the gas line was before the project started, and it was on no plans or any data. This price is for the general contractor's site work subcontractor to excavate a new trench to allow PECO to install the 4-inch gas line, which has been done. This work was out of scope of the project due to an unforeseen condition, which I just mentioned, that the gas line was found during excavation. And if you go to project status, for general contractor, contract 1, he's in the midst of installing erosion control and sedimentation controls. He has installed temporary construction fencing. He has completed the tree clearing, completed almost about 99% of the site demolition he can complete to date. He has continued site excavation. He has continued removal of excess fill. Excavation for relocation of PECO gas line, of course, is done. He began installation of storm source structures and piping, which you could see on the pictures on the back of the report. And if you notice, it's mostly just digging holes in trenches and now putting in storm sewer structures, excuse me. The erosion control measures at the stone entrance at Boyle Drive has been put in, and the installation of the sediment trap near Manoa Road, which is the main sediment trap for the whole site, is being installed. The other contractors haven't done any work on site yet, except for the electrical contractor, who has put in just some temporary electric service. And on the next page is just a summary of the contracts and what's been paid on them and retainage. The requisition summary total, and the following page is just a change management log with possible change orders. And of course, the schedule is attached. If you go back, if you go to the back where the pictures are, if there's any questions on those, but like I said, it's just trenching and installing pipe in storm sewer structures at this point.
Is that a typo on where you'd have summary of issues at on the 4th page where it says September 7, 2016? Should that be 17?
Yes. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I'd like to ask a few questions. Number one, on the Field A, the softball field there closest to the police station. Originally, I think the contractor was going to bring it in towards the field, 4 feet in towards the field, and it was really in the beginning I was told that the field was going to be used all this year for softball, and it wasn't. Okay, and now I understand the field is not being moved in, but it's being, not the field, but the project is being moved 4 feet back towards Manoa Road, which means that the field will be ready for softball next year. Is that correct?
It should be, yes, yeah. The 4 feet just makes the excavation easier, and it allows more of the field to be used during construction also.
Yeah.
The move was basically just to allow more of the field to be used during construction.
Yeah, well, the problem is, though, that there's a lot of different organizations using that field, especially Brookline AA for one, and Sacred Heart. Now, we changed the whole field around for football so that they could play on it this year. Now, that's going to go back to the old way next year, is what I'm told.
I'm not aware if the
Maybe
field's
Lori,
being moved.
yeah, Lori can help us with that.
Yeah, Commissioner, the construction manager doesn't really get involved in the field configuration. We did offset the football field as a temporary measure. Tom and the contractor marked out the line of excavation for the new building, and he called me down to the field and said, you know, we have a little bit of a problem here, you're right up against the goalpost. So we offset the field, we cut back the area of excavation so that we would be able to continue play per the permits that have been issued for the field.
Okay, so everything will be on for next year.
We have a temporary location for the football field. We have to, once the excavation is done, Pannoni actually is going to be coming out. Pannoni Associates has been out to the site, helped lay out the temporary location, and they'll be back for the permanent location. It won't be going back exactly where it was before. It'll be off. It'll continue to be offset, but it won't be as far out as it is right now.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Any more questions? I do, one question, I noticed on the picture, the stakes for the road, it says shared driveway, and I'm assuming that you're referring to Columbia Road
Yes.
there? What will be the width of that road once?
2 feet.
22 feet, so that will come under the state for a roadway, or no? Just trying to wonder if we would get any
I don't know
liquid
if the field's
fuels.
being dedicated or not.
Commissioner, that was an unopened paper street.
Right, yeah.
The township, it was actually on the township's titled land, and then the township acquired the land on the other side of it. So we own on either side of that. I suppose you could create a right-of-way there. Typically with a paper street, you would want to give some sort of notice before you created an open right-of-way, but that really is just, there's an easement to the benefit of Boyle for access, but that really is just access for the police department and Boyle, because they've been there historically. I'm not sure that you want to create a public way there
No,
for the police vehicles. That's their emergency egress.
Okay, all right, thank you. I have nothing further for, anybody else?
No.
Nope? Thank you very much, appreciate your time. Okay, next on the agenda, we are moving the Economic Development Committee. We're going to move that meeting, and the presentation for the Environmental Advisory Committee, that one we're going to move as well. Peter could not make it tonight.
Does that mean we're not voting on the economic development next week?
No, we are.
We're still voting on that.
We're just, this is a committee report.
Oh, okay.
So
Right.
we're not giving that committee
Okay.
report till November.
Thanks.
But we are voting on
All
that.
right.
But later, as that comes up, if you have any questions for it.
Right.
So next, we're going to go to Ms. Pacella for the Library Board update. Monica, if you would, please. Never mind.
I'd like to introduce the library. I'd like to thank both the board and the staff. They've done a great job. The ultimate goal, the short-term goal now is to get that Keystone grant finished, the matching grant that we voted on for the $500,000. They've got to get that submitted later this, in a short period of time. And then also, one of the things that I'd like to ask, they've put a lot of effort into whether they're going to, what kind of services they're going to offer during the renovation. Part of the discussion was, part of the cost structure was that they had to go out and rent space to house a temporary library. And then the suggestion got brought forward that since we're going to vacate this facility when we do it, that we delay the renovation of the library to dovetail with the project that the township's doing, therefore creating space that would be available if the library board voted to do it, and they did come up with a plan as to what services that they want to offer, that these facilities would be available to do that. I had a brief discussion, an informal meeting with Dennis Gray, the chairman of the school board, and inquired about using any available space that might be available in the school district. We were told informally that there were about 5 or 6 offices that could be used to house administrative people in the Oakmont School basement, if needed be, to provide office space while the library was closed. With the idea that this office space, this building, the Cotrani building, and the township building would then be available if the library was willing to delay and then try and figure out what services they could offer in this facility. Then it became apparent it was the best thing to do was to come to us as a board of commissioners and say, would you be willing to let us use these facilities after you vacate and occupy the new building? I discussed it informally with Larry. I think it's a good idea for the township because it delays, rather than doing 2 projects simultaneously, our cash flow is then put in a better position that we're not paying out monies simultaneously. We can do it consecutively, which will help both the bond issues to keep them lower and everything like that, and ease the cash flow for Larry and Amy during that period. So my plan is to come to you. I asked that we schedule a resolution to authorize the township manager next week to lease to the library our buildings after we're out of it. Put that in there so that they have the capacity to say that it is available, and then they can go back and finalize their plans as to what they think they can offer. And I'm not really sure what they can offer yet because it hasn't been decided. It's an ongoing project. And Mr. Casaccio, Lee Casaccio, is going to be up here tonight giving you an update on the project developments that are there, what the library's going to look like, the pictures and everything. And then if you want, he's also done a preliminary study at the library's request of what space, how they could allocate the space in the township building and this building to offer library services during the restoration project. So I'd like to commend the library. They're working hard and diligently to get the grant done. They got a budgeting process to go through, but they're at that uncertain point of they don't know what they can or cannot do because formally this building hasn't been available to them. So it's going to become a decision of this board to authorize the township manager to lease it, a $1 lease to the library. It's part of our package. So keep that in mind as you're going through the update and the project, that it makes sense to dovetail the projects after the township project and then use the space that we do. And then that gives the library time to put together a better plan, a more formal plan of what services they can offer and study these buildings, and then also offers us the financial benefit as well as gives our building committee time to figure out what we're going to do with these buildings long-term over the next couple of years and into the future. So I'd like to do that. Monica, do you want to speak, or do you want to have Lee to come up? What do you want to do?
Just prior, one moment, Commissioner, if you would, Mr. Gentili has a
Just
comment.
thank you, Commissioner Wexler. And I think you bring up a really good point when you talk about the finance, and I think it's an opportunity for me to just remind the board as well. And I think he hit it right on the head when he said that doing 2 projects, major projects at the same time. We don't have the funding to do 2 major projects. As you recall, we actually, the only monies that we actually had set aside were the $500,000 of the matching funds for the Keystone Grant, which we've paid out some of the monies thus far for emergency repairs, so on and so forth. So this board we need to fund that through future borrowing, whether it's in 2017 or 2018. So that's why that particular plan, that model, works best for me and my staff as well. But if the board decides otherwise, we're going to have to do, another bond, which we're going to be doing on 2017. But if you recall, this board had decided we would do 3 bank qualified loans over the period of time. So you need to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Right. It also gives the library more time by delaying it. It gives the time for us to coordinate with Delaware County Library System. It gives Christine and her staff the time to coordinate with the other libraries, so that when they know that they finally have the space as a guarantee, they can plan what services they can offer, and then work with the adjacent libraries to provide the services that we may not be able to offer. And you know, that goes along as far as people, maybe loaning people to the libraries to handle the overflow. For instance, if we close entirely, we'd be putting pressure on Leadington, Upper Darby, Broomall, or Marple Township, Springfield. So maybe, you know, for kids programs, we're going to have to send our person over to that library to assist them. So there's some of the things that we can work out over the longer term if we delay the project into that magnitude. So, but we'll let the library, and Lee will give the update. And Monica, you want to say something as well?
Thank you, Commissioner.
Just a brief introduction. I first want to thank the Board of Commissioners for your support and to extend thanks and appreciation to Commissioner Bill Wexler for his input as a liaison between commissioners and the library. I'd also like to thank Township Manager Larry Gentili, Assistant Township Manager Laura Wood, Finance Director Amy Cuthbertson for her care, time, and attention. Thank you. To the library's needs. Thank you, Larry.
You're welcome. Sorry.
Additional thanks to IT Director Rick McCleary, who generously shared his knowledge and advice concerning IT issues. Chief John Viola and Haverford Township Police Department for their outstanding responsiveness to the library and their security needs. Brookline Fire Company for agreeing to conduct public building safety and fire drill evacuation plan, protocols, and procedures. Finally, to the Haverford Township Paramedics Department, Chief Jim McCann and Deputy Chief Victor Berg for agreeing to conduct CPR and Narcon training for the Haverford Township Free Library staff. I'm here this evening with Architect Lee Casaccio, who will be presenting the updated schematic for the library renovation, and also present is Vice President Damian Spar from Reynolds, who will present the budget and cost estimates. Some announcements and highlights on the progress made by the Library Board. Resident Volunteer Committee appointments. Nancy Diamond from the 5th Ward was appointed as Board Liaison for Strategic Planning. Nancy has written the strategic plan statement for the Keystone Grant application and will next begin work on a long-range plan working with the staff and board. Joan Miller has been appointed as Chair of the Major Gifts Committee. Cindy Peskin has been appointed Vice Chair. Recent hirings. The board has hired Brian Maddox to update the CMS platform and creatively enhance the library's website. This will be important, especially during the shutdown period. To increase revenue streams, the board hired Rochelle Nocito, part-time, to write grants. Rochelle is a former employee of the Haverford Township Free Library with a master's in library science, who served as library director for the Philadelphia school system and also wrote $1 Million grants for the school system. Rochelle, in less than a month, worked round the clock to write and complete the Keystone Grant application from start to finish. CPA Debbie Stella was hired to improve financial reporting and assist the Finance Committee. And finally, upon recommendation from Architect Lee Casaccio, technology consultant Carson Block was hired to add technology and the supporting infrastructure to the newly renovated library. The final comments are, the Board of Trustees has accomplished quite a bit at this stage and is poised to move in a clear direction as the final version of the schematic design for the renovation takes shape. And with that, I'd like to introduce Lee Casaccio, the architect. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, good evening. It's evening, isn't it? Glad to be back. Last time we appeared before the board, it was last April of this year, and we gave kind of an overview of where we were at that time. I'm excited to share progress that we've made since then. Commissioner, when you were hanging out at up at County Line Road 50 years ago, I was biking over from Manila to go to this library, so this means a lot to me to be part of this.
You mean you're
exciting-
older than me?
Just about, not
Okay.
quite, but pretty close. It was over 50 years ago when I was biking to this library, so it's exciting to be part of this renovation. As both Commissioner Wexler said and Monica, the board and the building committee and the staff has been hard at work, and a couple, in addition to our partners at Reynolds and our engineering consultants, Monica mentioned Carson Block. It was largely at the encouragement of this board in April to explore and employ the latest in technologies in libraries that we found Carson Block, and he's one of the leading technology, library technology people in the country. We also, as you may remember, have Himmel and Wilson. Bill Wilson is a library planner, and again, he's nationally known. And Mr. Wexler talked about the Keystone Grant, and Bill Wilson's library program is going to be a very important part of that application. That program details the utilization of every single space in the library. And it's been an ongoing process. It started 4 years ago when we started the utilization study. And I'll show you some things that have occurred as refinements of that. But it's balancing this idea of collections of traditional books and programs and other technologies is what we've been trying to balance within the existing confines of the library. Our dream has gelled, and you can see this, for the rejuvenated library, a vibrant, welcoming members of our communities, one and all, young and old, and everyone in between. Nurturing, safe community hub for creative learning. That's what we've been focused on. You may recall that when I was here in April, we shared with you some of our strategies to utilize the space in the library more effectively, capturing underutilized or unused space and making the spaces work hard. So let's take a walk through our library, and I'll just highlight some of the features. You may know Darby Road is on our left, Mill Road is along the bottom of the drawing. We've recreated a new entrance to accommodate ADA accessibility, our elevator, and that required reconfiguring the stairs. When one enters the renovated library, there'll be an exciting, welcoming entrance area. There'll be digital wayfinding there, so we know where we're going. One of the keys was to be able to close off the upper 2 floors of the library so that we can use the lower level of the library where the community rooms are, and you'll see a makerspace and some technology centers there, while the rest of the library could be closed off. When we come into the center of the library, the circulation desk is there. We have fiction in the upper right, nonfiction in the lower area. We have a book drop on our way in. We have laptop bars, computers. One of the things that we did, it's not quite shown yet, but back in this corner was a tutoring room, and we expanded that to be a little bit of a conference center. It's going to be large enough to have meetings of all sorts. It'll have a flat screen and technology, so you get business meetings there or anything. And that was an example of kind of modifying the push and pull between the collection areas and program needs. You can see the staff area in the upper left, the purple area. And if you come back to the entrance, if we take a left, we'll pass through non-print and large print, science fiction. In the old vault of the original bank building will be a kind of protected historic collection. And then over to the left is really going to be a great feature space. It's going to be our living room. It's going to feature a library. It will remain a 2-story space. And this is an early rendition of how we envision that living room, fireplace. Great. I think it's going to be a great area, not only for library uses, but for special uses and events of all kinds. There'll be a small vending coffee area there, and should be a great area. So if we come up to the second floor, you'll see the children's area and the teen area. You'll see examples of this isn't working tonight, but right above there's a hub area. There are two rooms that can be divided into 2 smaller areas or 1 larger one. We have technical services and youth services up in the upper right. Christine, the director, and her staff will be in the upper left. We've created a boardroom that's on the left area there, right there. That's going to be equipped for video conferencing. And then one of the areas that was renovated not so long ago for the Thank you, Larry. For the employee lounge will be here. If we approach the lower level, we'll come down the stairs or the elevator, and we have so the area with movable partitions can be opened up so that the entire area can be available for special events, or it could be divided into two separate meeting rooms. There's a catering kitchen here. We're looking into the possibility of a demonstration kitchen. We're still trying to decide the best way to do that. Here's another area over here in kind of the large mechanical room where we've captured some space for storage of tables and chairs and so forth. We're making the toilet rooms larger. We're enlarging them in this area here. It's a friends area here. But this is an area worth noting, the lower left area, and this is a blow-up of it. This is an early sketch of what we're calling the maker space. And we're doing that by, if you know the library, this area is about 2 foot higher than the rest of the lower floor elevation. So we're actually going to excavate down a couple of feet. We're going to underpin the foundations in order to provide a really great space. We're going to open up window wells in 3 areas so there's at least some sense of natural light coming into this area. And our friend Carson Block now, who was with us actually last week, visiting from Colorado, of all the things that he's doing, he's highlighted these as 2 of the capstones. Core technology infrastructure, providing the speed and the capacity for internet connections, and a capability to grow and adapt to meet future needs. We call that scalable. We call that future-proofing, because we know if one thing's going to change, the internet's going to change and technology's going to change. So we're doing this in a way that will be able to grow and adapt as the times change. And the other feature, and there are others, but the other one is this maker space designed to promote creativity and community, both low-tech and high-tech endeavors. And this is the rage in libraries and schools, public libraries across the nation, because we're finding that libraries are no longer a place to come just to pick up something or to get something, pick up a book. They're a place to come in community and to do and create. And so this new library, these are just some examples of maker spaces in other libraries across the country. Here you have low-tech sewing and paper crafting and such. And here we have 3D printing, a laser wood cutting machine on the left, and our audio-video studio on the bottom right. So now we're back to this maker space. You can see it's still under sketching, under development, but we're basically going to open the whole space up. We're going to put counters and storage along the wall, equipped with power and data and everything else that we need. They'll have features like different exhaust systems to make sure that we can comply with the various possibilities here. We're going to have a green screen here for video productions, and here is that AV studio. It's going to be quite exciting. This is how we envision the library from the exterior. We studied this. We had some functional problems to resolve in terms of the requirement for the new elevator and the entrance area, and that leading to a new stair. We wanted this to kind of be, neutral is probably not the right word, but kind of not overpowering the other 2 architectural forms that exist, particularly the beautiful old library, the former bank in the front. So what we've tried to do is create an entrance. First of all, you know where the entrance is. There's no question that that's the entrance. But also one that is transparent, so you can see into the vibrancy of the library. You can see the activity, and hopefully drawn right into the life and color and all the action that's happening in the library. You can see one of our ideas for letting light into the maker space is to take those window wells and not only make them just something to keep the rain out, but really celebrate them, let the light flash up on the walls. And our idea was to actually, we can actually get into that space and display possibly artifacts that we're making in the makerspace to, kind of pique people's curiosity. Hey, what's going on down there? That looks interesting. I'd like to try that out. We've have appeared before the Historic Commission, and there are some differences of opinion that we need to continue to work with the commission and work through. One was the idea that, and we respect the history and the beautiful old bank building, and we want to restore that and certainly respect that. If we had more money, we would replace the windows so they looked exactly like the original historic windows. That's still a possibility. Today's budget doesn't look like that's great of a probability, but we haven't given up and we're going to try. The three examples of difference of opinion would be these light wells. Another one would be the front doors. We don't think they should be doors because that conflicts with the message of where the new doors are, but we want to try to work with the commission to try to study their requests that we make that look like the original doors. And the third example would be to maintain the bars or the grates on the original windows when it was a bank. We think that sends the wrong message, and so we're kind of debating that and kind of working through that. So would there be any questions? I do have, as Commissioner Wexler said, some diagrams of how the temporary library would fit into this building and the township building, if you're interested to see them, or if you have any other questions.
I do. I have one question, and in looking in your space here, I see 6 computers available for use. Does that seem like
No,
it's...
that's an earlier sketch. There'll be more, plus there were laptop bars that I didn't call your attention to.
Okay.
And since this drawing was depicted even on the second floor in the teen area and the children's area, there'll be many more computers. I don't
Okay.
have the exact count.
Okay,
but
because
there'll be many.
6 computers isn't going to cut it.
And it's really about catering to, and Christine can speak to this, checking out devices at the library, bringing our own devices, and having access to the internet. So Commissioner, that's been carefully studied. There'll be a lot more than 6, believe me.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Do you know how many devices would be able to be checked out? Like, I assume you're talking about an iPad or something similar
Yes,
to that?
we're looking at like a kind of a kiosk where they would be charged and checked out. Christine, do we have about 10 is what we're looking at now.
Just 10 iPads?
Unless the board wants to buy them more.
Doesn't seem like a lot.
It's kind of a new feature, a new technology, and probably could add more
I
because
think,
they come.
Andrew, I think when you talk to the technology consultants, most people are, it's a BYOB. You're bringing your own device, BYOD. Most people are coming in there with their own devices because they want the access to the internet, the high-speed access, but they want to take the data home, what they download to their own machines, as opposed to leaving it on somebody else's machine.
So you'll be able to download a book, for example, if you wanted to download a
Well,
book?
you can download a book today. I use my Kindle from the library. I hardly ever check out a book. I download it to my Kindle or my iPad.
Through the library?
Through the library system, yeah.
And what I didn't see, and I know you said these are preliminary, you talk about bring your own device, but there typically are what I'll call device bars where there's high tables with both USB ports, plugs, and an area where there's enough room for someone to work. Is that in there?
There'll be there's a laptop bar here, there's a laptop bar here, and we're now studying a refinement of this where there'll be data drops and power around the perimeter at every seating area, so that's being developed.
Because if you ever go into an airport, any airport that has them, that is the most prime space, and I suspect the library would be the same thing. I see it all the time.
We're in that process right now.
How large is our current book collection, and what do you project it to be after this new library?
I should know that. Christine, do you know what the counts are? The volumes have gone up and down.
We have about 123,000 volumes at the moment. We are going
to be.
Sorry, Christine, because you're not going to be heard, can you come up, Alexa, next to the thing?
Sorry.
Good evening. We have about 124,000 volumes at the moment. We are planning to continue weeding collections in order to make everything fit into the spaces that we have available.
So it's going to go down, obviously.
It's going to go down a little bit, yes,
Yeah.
it will.
And of the 124,000, do you have any idea what percentage of those books are checked out more than one time a year?
At the moment, I don't have that in my head.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I can create a list for it.
I'd be just be curious as to
Absolutely,
how
I'll
much
get that information to you.
how much the collection is actually used that we have. Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
One question on as far as the design goes, and I see that seating area, the living room, so to say. Now, there will be a lot of plug-in available as well as Wi-Fi. For future, I know that I'm wondering for good weather, people wish to go to the library and perhaps sit outside, like we have outside seating for restaurants and what have you. Is there any thought to if they can still Wi-Fi right outside of the building? Say if you had some outside seating? Or, I guess you can't plug in, but
One of the things that we're beginning is a study of the sidewalk and actually making it a plaza. So we're landscaping benches and such. So what we've been more concerned about is the possibility of coming out of the old doors, and we think that's not a good idea. But to your point, one could come out the main entrances, and if there were tables and chairs and benches out there, I suppose that would be a really great feature. What do you think, Christine?
I mean, it's just an opportunity to allow people to enjoy, say, a beautiful day as well as be at the library.
And as we know that
And research.
that area between the library and Darby Road is there's quite a bit of space there. So
Oh, yeah,
that's
there's a ton of space there. You could do something there.
What I'll do is, and the board will recall, we have that multimodal transportation grant that goes from Gulf Road all the way down on the other side of Mill Road, almost down to Strathmore. So in the next few weeks, you should have a conversation with Mr. Pannoni, and what that grant allows us to do, bless you, is to do some stormwater controls, but more importantly, we'll be digging up all of the sidewalk from Gulf Road all the way down, and that whole intersection will get all new handicap ramps, be new traffic controls, new sidewalk, new curbing, antique lighting, and a bike kiosk. So
great.
you should have that
We
conversation.
had started that conversation.
Great, thank
with
you.
Mr. Pannoni. Yes, thank you.
So we've talked about this as being a renovated library, so I'm interested in knowing what is not new about the library, other than the 4 exterior walls. Is there anything that's not new? Essentially, it's a new library. And you talked about the windows. I'm interested in knowing how many windows you're talking about, and do you recommend that, given the investment we're making today, does it make sense to replace those windows today, even if it's added cost?
So it's a good question because it essentially will be a new library.
Yeah.
I can think of the staff employee lounge on the 2nd floor that's going to stay because it's new. Virtually everything else is really going to be new. The panels on the outside of the 70s edition will be new. All of the windows will either be, we've had a study done by experts, the windows will either be replaced in some cases, or the glass will be replaced, and the frames renovated. So re-caulk, re-flash, and such.
So essentially all new window panes.
Essentially, yes.
So it's really, we talk about renovated library, it's really It's really a new library, other than the four
Library in its
walls.
existing footprint is a better way
Yeah.
of saying it.
Yeah.
Now,
The outside wall on the second floor, maybe you can just explain that. I know from the historical commission meeting that you had, the bookshelves on the second floor, there was something in terms of that you weren't able to remove them?
Yes, so the way this library is designed, you can see here,
The one side of the wall.
edition, do I have that right? 80s, 79 edition, whatever it was.
70s, yeah.
So the way that, if you've been up there, that wall kind of curves up, and then underneath that curve are built-in bookcases, which we're going to maintain. So that's why that really should stay the way it is. As I said, we're going to replace the panels, add the insulation, waterproofing and such, and repair or replace the windows.
So all of these windows, now, as far as the style of window, the type of window, the air conditioning system,
Well, all the air conditioning is new.
it is new.
Electrical,
So with the
air
introduction of a lot of these windows, I'm sure that's taken into consideration, but it'll still be powered enough to
Absolutely.
keep that building nice and cool
Absolutely.
for,
And
Yeah.
warm.
And not only that,
and
but-
warm, but
and
usually
warm.
the phone calls come when it's, when it's hot.
Warm wasn't an issue. Warm.
I wasn't prepared tonight to give you a briefing on the mechanical systems, but they're going to be sustainable, very energy conserving, and very well controlled, the way we have it designed. So maybe at our next meeting, I can get into more detail on that, but absolutely, yes.
Is there any update on, I know you said clearly this new sign you can see from Darby Road. On the front of the building along Darby Road there's the part where there's the office space to the left.
We're proposing,
Is there going to be any signage there so that,
Yes.
if you're coming from the middle school down Darby Road, you wouldn't necessarily see down Mill?
unfortunately, this rendition does not have it, but we're proposing above this curved portion here, the library sign also, so when you're approaching from like the middle school,
Yeah.
you'll be able to see it from both sides of the street.
Similar design and
Yes.
lettering and...
It'll complement the other sign on the Mill Road side.
Just one last question on the actual landscaping. I see that I think you have two trees showing there. Is there any additional streetscaping or anything else planned at this point?
Absolutely, we just haven't worked with Mr. Pannoni yet to begin that landscaping process.
So that we-
That's next.
Okay.
Yeah.
May I ask a couple questions?
No.
Okay.
Not totally.
Well, anyway.
Excuse me, teacher, could I answer? Can I ask?
Very nice plan. I like the idea of the outdoor. And I was wondering, a couple questions I had. I was wondering if maybe you can, I love this, but if we could do some sort of like a porch area?
I would love to do that. Lori worked closely with us on the limitations of our design from the standpoint of the setback. This now comes out to the very inch of where the existing building comes
Right,
out, which
right.
is a foot behind the setback line. So if you look closely at the design, there's just, I would love to do that, Commissioner, but there's just not enough space. I can show you maybe in the,
Would there be rooftop space? Could you, on top of the bank building, a rooftop park, or is that?
it's not difficult too
Okay.
because of the existing
Mechanicals?
roof
Yeah,
there. But this, we had existing structure and setbacks. This design right here is like a watchmaker's deal. It's just very intricate and unfortunate. You can see how little that canopy is, by the way, if you see it right there. That's all we have. I love that idea. Would love to do it. But. And also, while we're on budget, we're just on budget, so we really don't have.
So speaking about the budget, so we allocated $5 million?
$5.5.
5.5. So,
The other 5 is for the,
Where I get to.
I'm sorry?
the other 5 was for the grant. 0.5 was for
It's
the
the
grant.
Keystone Grant,
Keystone.
500,000.
Okay. And how much of the library are you guys contributing?
Hold on 1 second, hold on,
Everything over that.
Hi, Damian Spar with Reynolds. So to funding, and I'm going to get back to the answer to that question, which I'll preview by saying I don't know yet. There's the township, and if I have any of this wrong, jump in, correct me, but $5 million for construction. It was $1.75 million for soft costs. So that was a total of $6.75 million. Then if you get the Keystone grant, $500,000, and matching another $500,000, so that gets you to 7.75 total project without library contribution. That takes us to that question, and I don't know what the answer to that is. I'm not sure that's been formulated yet.
Nothing's been changed since the late 70s. It's 40 years ago.
And just to reiterate what Lee said, our estimate at what I will call a very good schematic design by the architect had us within $115,000 of that number. So that's good, but what we had a list of other things that were alternates. For example, an alternate for the fire pump. I don't know if we're going to need a fire pump. If we do, we don't. That's really not something that we get to say yes or no to. We just need it. But if we don't need that fire pump, then perhaps we get all new windows because they're similar in cost between replacing the glazing and then taking the windows out and providing all new windows. So we're looking at those things very closely, but right now, with where we're at, we're running very close with our estimates to budget with the grant and the matching. So your answer is you don't know what you're contributing? I don't know what the library is contributing. I can't speak for the library board or for the library.
So is this space more expensive to renovate than it would be to build something new?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not?
Yeah, it is not more expensive to renovate
That's my question.
than to build new. No.
So how would this compare on a per square foot basis to what, I know Media just built a new library, and I know Ludington has both
How would it
built
compare
a
to
new
those?
section and renovation. So I'm curious as to how our costs per square foot compare to, I'm not sure what the right apples to apples comparison would be, because I want to make sure it's fair, but I want to make sure that our per square foot basis is in line.
That's usually in my estimate report, and for some reason I didn't have it, but I will calculate it for you very quickly.
The cost of renovations versus the cost of grant. Cost of
About-
renovation, and that doesn't include parking.
I'm sorry.
About $184 a square foot to renovate the building, and you would be well over $200 a square foot for new. Quite a bit over that.
Is that what, do you know what Media spent and other comparable libraries spent per square foot, or Ludington Library?
For new, I do
Or
not know.
Yeah.
I can't tell you exactly what those are, but I can tell you that my expectation would be that those would be in the $250 a square foot range without site work.
Yeah.
When you add in site work, if you demo the new,
Does that include soft costs too, and?
No, that's
okay.
construction.
That's construction.
Yeah, that, usually when we talk about cost per square foot as a metric, we use construction costs.
Yeah. So then the soft cost of 1.75 million, is that in line?
It is, yes, it is.
That's in line with what?
It's in line with what I expected to see when I came on board, and I analyzed those soft costs and moved things into where I thought they needed to be, taking into account temporary library, which, you know,
So that's built into that?
being here is going to lower that cost by taking away, you know, what would be a sizable lease to, you know, something that the township's talking about
So we
now.
might save in that area.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Thank you.
What are the, I guess, the major costs in this project?
What are the major costs? Well, when you, like, what makes up that $184 a square feet, square foot? Electrical systems, and I'm gonna ballpark this for you, but electrical and mechanical systems might each be in the $25 to $30 per square foot range. That front entryway is obviously a significant cost comparatively. So when we talk about a renovation, what we really have is, the way we characterize it, is we have a renovation, but we have this 2,000 square feet of new, because really that section is like brand new construction. But really when you take the aggregate, you're still only at the 184 per square foot, which tells me that the rest of the renovation inside, was a number I expected to see, which would have been probably in the 150 to 170 a square foot range. And to get back to a question that was asked, and Commissioner, I think you asked it, what's not going to be new? So the roof's not going to be new. There's not a lot of work now that some of the stonework was repaired. There's not a lot of work to that stone unless we find something that needs to be repaired. But really, when you think about this is almost like returning the building to a shell.
Right.
And if you've ever heard of core and shell projects, that's really what we're going back to. We're going back to a core and shell, and everything else is new. The architect did what I was hoping he would do, and everything that he could to leave walls where they were in his new programming, he left them as long as they made sense within the library program, and that helps to keep the cost down. So there's a lot of good thought going into reducing costs. I chuckle because in the library circles, I'm called Dr. No, because I say, no, we don't want to spend money on that or whatever. And so we were talking about partitions downstairs. Those partitions are very expensive. So there's probably nearly $100,000 there that if we say, we'll put the partitions in later, now you can put that money into something that's used all the time, or seen all the time, as opposed to used sometimes. So there are lots of little things that we're going to look at that we don't want to affect the program, and we want the beauty that you see to stay there, but we want to be really smart about how we're doing things. Some of that's happening right now as we study this.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, when do you think of an idea as to what the library is going to contribute to it?
I have to ask the library that question.
When you guys have an idea, do you know? I can't hear you, I'm so sorry.
Please come to the mic, Monica, thanks.
Hasn't been determined yet, but the library will contribute towards the project. The amount would be determined by the board and examining whatever the costs are, but they really do need to contribute toward this project, given the generosity of the township.
Yeah, because that was...
Don't have a number for you.
No, it's fine, and I appreciate you saying that, because that was agreed upon, right? Wasn't that they would contribute? Wasn't that?
I'll let you.
Am I wrong?
Well, in the beginning, there was a fundraising campaign, I think, that we did hear about, but I don't think that came to fruition. I think that was all
Well,
by the wayside.
They're talking about doing that now. I mean, she
There
mentioned-
are efforts for a capital campaign, and a group has been, a subcommittee that Monica's put together for a capital campaign and ongoing donations and the like. So there will be basically creating a development office within the library for annual giving and capital campaign, which this will be part of.
So other than like staff areas, are all these areas considered public spaces? For example, that boardroom, is that considered a public space that could be used by the public?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, good.
And this all is dealing with the construction of the renovations of the building. We still haven't entered into any parking at all at this point, right? There's
Right
still
now,
just the parking that it exists now.
yes, sir. So I think that the idea is, and this is to be explored with Noni, is to restripe the existing parking lot and overlay it, pending that we have the money and that's where we want to put the money, but regardless, to restripe it to get some more space. But as you know, restriping gives you 1 or 2 spots more, not 10.
Don't open your car door.
Having parked there, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Does anybody else have any more questions?
I will offer one other thing regarding your consideration of using this building. When that came up, I was asked to change the project schedule to start maybe in May and end in the following spring, missing a summer versus pushing out into the fall and then maybe eking into the second summer. One thing was, I liked it because maybe we'll get part of a summer and we won't miss a whole summer in the library. But because of the timing of the bids, I think bidding the project out, not in the spring, but in the fall and toward the end of the year, where you have that timeline that is mostly not summer work, I don't think that the small differential in moving that out several months in terms of escalation, I think that'll be taken care of because you'll probably get more competitive and better bids in a fall time frame with that as your construction time frame, as opposed to, okay, we're bidding with everything else that's going to start in the summer. Somebody might be too busy to bid one thing or another because they have so much going on getting ready for typical summer work. So in my estimation, I don't think that moving it out is really a major cost factor. So if that helps the commissioners in deliberation.
Well, that was a question I had, was material rates, everything as they go up, because if you do,
Here's the thing that I always say, anytime you push anything out in time, the two biggest dangers are if you have some sort of crazy spike in oil prices that causes materials to go up, that's one thing. Depending on how far you go out, you have labor increases, but that's really where a lot of the escalation could lie. But the other big thing is when you have a natural disaster. We really haven't seen anything like that since Andrew, driving prices crazy. But, well, there's been a couple other hurricanes, but the last hurricane was the one that they talked about in Florida all those years ago. That did have an impact. So I worry about those major disasters that happen in the country or things that affect oil prices and things like that. Outside of that, the normal everyday stuff that we've been seeing, I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of escalation that would be outpaced by what you gain out of a change in bid time.
so all in all, the use of this building, this property here, would be a greater benefit to the project as well as the residents, as opposed to the financial issues?
If you would like my opinion as a construction manager, I will tell you it has a financial benefit, and I think it provides the library, from what I can tell programmatically, with the best level of service that can be provided temporarily during the renovation. I think it is quite a good thing for the project in many ways, including financially.
Super. And
If I may, there's about 8,400 square feet here and in the building across the way. This space would be thought of as a retail space, some stacks of circulation here, and then the offices would be sprinkled in the first and second floor of the building.
We'll get a detailed planning on that. If this becomes available and that becomes their plan, we'll come back and update as a committee update, or we'll update.
Okay, and that would, I'm wondering if that would require moving of walls or anything by the township, or
No.
it's just as the existing building?
Right.
I got
Seems
you.
to work out pretty well.
It's certainly intriguing, absolutely, Commissioner. Thank you very much for bringing that to us. Anybody else have any?
No, but I would agree with Commissioner Wexler on waiting and renovating, waiting and using this space if that's the way the board would like it. I think it would be advantageous for us, save a lot of money doing it that way. So I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Phenomenal.
It's phenomenal. Larry?
All right, thank you very much to the board, ladies, gentlemen, thank you very much. Great report, appreciate it. Okay? Okay. We have
Yeah, you can clap.
a little bit, yep, more. Let's see, let's continue on. We have, by ordinance, we have about 22 minutes to go. And
What?
Mrs. Widow, are you going to present 516 Eagle Road, or will that be Mr. Pannoni?
I think that discussion is for executive session, am I correct?
It probably is. It's relative to the sale of real estate.
Right, so that's an executive session.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will strike that from
No, we talked about the other project.
Chief Viola, the Police Department crime update, please? At your leisure.
Thank you, Commissioners. We issued 211 parking tickets. Parking tickets are down. We had 2 retirements this year. We're working with 1 meter personnel. We're in the process of hiring later on this year to bring the part-time employees back up again. Traffic citations, 287 traffic citations were issued, and we issued 221 written warnings. Now, we had 2 robberies on August the 28th, strong-arm robberies, one in Old Manoa and one at the Haverford station, the P&W station up by Buck Lane. 2 blackmail suspects took a wallet and phones from two victims. We strongly feel that the same people perpetrated these crimes, and we are investigating now. It concerns us greatly that we're starting to see this sort of thing in the, I'll call it the lower section of Haverford, in the Commissioner Connell's ward, where some of this is moving out possibly from the city. So we have reallocated some of our resources to try and stem the flow of any future crime that may occur, because once again, thefts from vehicles are going up, and we had motor vehicle thefts, which we hadn't seen before. So we had 11 thefts from vehicles, Lawrence Hill, and these are all unlocked cars. Once again, 2300 block of Belmont Avenue, 3300 block of Darby, 800 block of Woodland, 400 block of Alston, 1925 Lawrence, 2300 block of Bryn Mawr, 200 block of Earlington, 100 block of Brentwood, 400 block of Walnut Place, and 200 block of Sagamore. Now, in addition to that, we had stolen cars, unlocked cars, keys in the cars, whether they were valet keys left in the cup holders or in the glove compartment or in the console. When they went through the cars, they found the keys. The 200 block of Earlington Road, car was recovered in Philadelphia. 1000 block of Township Line, unlocked keys in the car recovered in Philadelphia. 200 block of Sagamore, unlocked keys in the car, was crashed in Lower Merion. And the 2300 block of Bryn Mawr was crashed in Lower Merion. Both of those cars obviously were stolen by...
It wasn't in the same accident, was it?
It was the same accident, that's correct. So the people who stole the car obviously crashed them. And then we had another one taken in the 2300 block of Bryn Mawr Avenue, unlocked keys in the car. We had a juvenile arrest in Philadelphia. The person has a lengthy criminal record. Obviously, he's not cooperating with us one bit. We had a sex offense in the YMCA parking lot for an indecent exposure. The suspect was ID'd. He was confessed and arrested and confessed to the crime. Canine usage, DUI arrest, vehicle search of marijuana found, vehicle search for drugs, assist in other jurisdictions, Springfield for robbery, track from a CVS pharmacy, track for a fleeing suspect, Brookline and Beechwood areas, suspect arrested, that was Lower Merion for a vehicles entered, articles search from theft from vehicles, and a public drunk arrest, area search for drugs. That's my report.
Yeah, question, as far as a couple of things. Entries on home entries, they increasing, going down, or?
Home entries, we had one burglary, well, we had 2 burglaries. I think I skipped over that when I was talking. I jumped to the theft of vehicles, I apologize. We had burglary at Katz Pharmacy on Eagle Road. Within the hour, Lower Merion had 2 burglaries of drugstores owned by the same person, the smaller drugstores. We had a tip into the police department. We have a warrant for the suspect who was ID'd. Search warrant was served very close to the township building. He was not on location, so we have a warrant for the person for that burglary. And the 300 block of Kenmore, open front door, and a pocketbook was taken from the house at 6:30 in the morning. So burglaries are not up, but the car thefts and the vehicle enters are obviously still. We had a lull, and it's climbing again now. But we are, like I said, moving resources around to stem that flow.
From what I hear from you, it's the same thing. It's the unlocked vehicle.
Continually, Commissioner. We've had reports of people do see, people walking around at nighttime trying car doors, and they just walk up and down driveways, up and down the streets until they find a car door. Police are called, middle of the night, there's not too much activity. The few calls we do get for that they see something suspicious, we obviously send the cars, they disappear in the backyards, but that's what it is. As soon as they find the open car, boom, and they can take what they want for a couple of bucks, or they find keys and take the car. It's a concern. I've been talking about this for a year now, about unlocked cars. We emphasize as much as we can. You gotta lock your cars, you gotta lock your houses.
And believe me, it's put out there to the public, I know, by the website, I know by social media, et cetera. So I guess we just have to continue
They remind
to go out and do it again. Curfew, how's the curfew been doing?
Yeah, a few curfew violations. We had a couple over the weekend. It was a busy weekend because of holiday, a few underage drinking arrests, some DUI arrests. But as far as a curfew, there has been some violations. But as far as juveniles out wandering late at night, the curfew has done its job.
Okay, super. Any update on the anniversary as far as events that might be coming up for the police
Haverford Township
department?
Day Parade is October 1st, and the police are leading that parade because it's our 100th anniversary, so will be a major part of that celebration. And then I think that we're still in planning for a couple other things that we haven't finalized yet. I think I shouldn't talk about till we finalize.
Right, just wondered if the most recent one then is Haverford Township Day. Great.
Absolutely. Okay.
Anybody else? Chief, thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief.
Mr. Gentili, you want to speak about the drone ordinance? We got a lot of
Yes.
zombies walking around? What do you mean?
As this board would remember, for the last several months, I've been working, myself, the police department, recreation department, been working with Mr. Byrne and his staff to try to come up with an ordinance to control drones and other remote control flying apparatus on township parks and so on and so forth. Our goal is to, obviously, is to make sure that our residents exercise their rights to utilize these new technologies, but more importantly, while protecting the life and safety of our residents or children as visitors that utilize our parks and playgrounds. Just to give you, just to remind you that we've had several incidents where there would be ball games or other activities going on in our parks, and the police department would get 911 calls from concerned residents and bystanders that someone is flying this remote control device over that particular sport activity or activity that's going on. Having some experience with that, because obviously we have a number of these type of units that we use in emergency management and the police department, they are dangerous and they could, quite frankly, cause injury. So we came up with this drone policy or ordinance that's in front of you that we'll ask you to vote on and support next week, so we can give the police department the tools to control the use of these devices flying over our parks and playgrounds.
I guess just my question in reading this, so if, I mean, part of what you said was we want to allow residents to utilize this new technology. And also I know we have drone use and police have utilized drones, but this ordinance seems to prohibit it both in our parks and on our roads, right?
Yes.
So then the only alternative is over private property and people's houses, right?
You have a right to do that. If you have that device and you want to fly it on your property, you have a right to do that.
Well, so do we have a cutout so that we can still use a drone?
Oh, absolutely. We would utilize it, the police department. We're using it for public safety. And we use it for emergency management, public safety, as well as we'll do traffic studies with it. And recently we've done, just actually last week, I believe, we did an engineering survey on township property to check aerial views of our waterways in a particular area of the township that we couldn't get foot access. So it wouldn't preclude the township for utilizing it for those purposes.
Limited to privately owned.
Do we know what the FAA, Larry, do we know what the FAA permits and or what you're recommending in this ordinance? Is it consistent or does it differ in any way? Have they provided guidelines or?
The FAA does have guidelines, and Mr. Burns' staff has gotten an awful lot of training. I'm going to let him make some comments on it as well.
Well,
the rest of Mr. Burns' staff has got.
Well, they should, we need them here.
No, I do know that and I have been to a seminar or two on it. The FAA does regulate some space, and we would not be able to regulate any of that space. I don't know the exact height that it's at, but it's up higher than what we're talking about here.
So we'd be allowed to do whatever.
I think we're okay with this, as best that I can tell. Now, this is really an area that's changing a lot, because they're coming into use more. There's more regulations coming down, both on the federal level and the state level. So it's as consistent as we can be right now. I mean, we're going to have to keep our eye on this for a while.
Tweak it later.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we purchased a drone, one of the first ones a few years ago. I believe the price was $7,000. We couldn't sell it today for $500. You can go to the Micro Center and pick one up for less than $300-400, and there's smaller ones. But if they come out of the sky when there's a baseball game going on or a soccer game, they can cause pretty serious injuries. So that's our intent.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder, I mean, Chief, is there an opinion? I mean, are we going to do anything special to enforce this ordinance? I mean, are we going to rely on the police to enforce it?
Well, we had 2 incidents in the past year by the same individual with a homemade drone. One crashed into a house on Lawrence Road, and the other was flying up at the reserve, if I remember correctly, which crashed in the reserve also. So we had no way to enforce that you can't be here. We just told them it's a threat to public safety. He apologized, but it's a problem, so we had no way to enforce it. And I think Mr. Denny also had concerns, especially like Larry said, when games are going on, people flying drones, if they do come down, they could cause a problem, obviously.
Well, I have 2 issues. One is, and I've seen this in other ordinances that I don't believe is in ours, is prohibitions that you can't fly a drone over any location where the person has a reasonable expectation of privacy, which means over other people's property, for example, because drones can be used, obviously, for those purposes. And is there any reason why we wouldn't have that language in our ordinance? Second, any restrictions on height, so that's over a certain height. I don't know what FAA regulations are, but certainly there should be something. I mean, we are partly in the landing path of the smaller runway at the airport.
Yeah, I think that issue is the one I was talking about that's preempted. We could certainly take a look at anything to try and make this more clear. I mean, as I said, these are a lot of this is really something changing and new. So if you have that other ordinance you want to send me, I'll be happy to take a look at it.
It's actually from Barstow, California, but it's a very good ordinance in terms of privacy issues, because I don't think people want people flying a drone over someone else's house and then taking pictures.
Yeah.
You're out there in a hot tub or something, you could have real privacy issues.
Yes, exactly. Well, if you send it to us, we'll take a look at it.
So there's no address of flying over private property. We've restricted over all the parks, all the township space. It's going to take, then we have 2 golf courses, Lanark and Marion. The only big open space left is in the neighborhoods. They're going to be flying over private space, privately owned property, our golf courses and other big open areas of, larger residences in those areas. I didn't see any address about flying over somebody else's. It just looks like they could be trespassing, I guess, if that recovered.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard issue.
I don't think we're permitted to regulate it because it's an airspace.
Right.
And give it a little bit more, when we utilize our emergency drones with the police, like a police activity, and Dan's right, Haverford Township, 90% of Haverford Township now is in the Class B airspace. Class B airspace is controlled from the ground to 7,000 feet. So we actually make a phone call to the Philadelphia Tower. We advise them that we're going to be utilizing the drone for the purpose of public safety. We actually have a license number on that particular aircraft, and we tell them at no time do we fly, at least we've not had any incidents where it was required to fly more than 100 feet in the air. So almost 100% of the time we get approval from Philadelphia. But we got to be careful that we don't start trying to regulate what the airspace with the FAA is controlling and allowing.
Yeah, and I guess that's my concern too, because the FAA is starting to register these drones. I mean, there's commercials out there saying, "Come to us and register your drone." So, what are we going to do when, they're flying it over public property that doesn't have a baseball game or a soccer game going on, or anything like that, and they say, "Well, I went to the federal government and I registered my drone."
What we want to say is, and exactly right, we period. You're not allowed to fly over township property, whether there's activities going on or not. We want to preclude that from happening. Anywhere from 200 feet down. You want to fly over 200 feet, that's fine. And we believe we have the right.
Right.
So, if they're up over 200 feet, they would then be permitted.
Yes, I mean, I'm not, on top, I'm trusting Larry's right with the 200 feet. I don't remember the exact number, but that's what I said earlier. There's a certain height, a certain airspace, and depending on what type of airspace it is, where FAA would take over and we would be preempted from doing anything at those heights.
Right.
Also size restriction.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead.
Yep, I just had one more. So section 3 deals with violations and penalties. So why do we have a range here? Why don't we just have a number of what the fine would be? Are we allowed to just set the number? You're given the DJ discretion, I guess, to...
Yeah, and that's the way it is with a lot of the, a lot of summary offenses, they...
Is that consistent?
Yeah, it can be, up to $300, up to $1,000. It gives the DJ some discretion that if, you have a person that comes in and does it one time and you tell them no, then maybe that guy doesn't get a giant fine, but he comes back and does it a second time then.
I think if the board passes this, which I personally support it, but I think it's important that we get the word out through our township newsletter so people are aware. I mean, I don't know how else we would do it.
Through all our social media.
All our social,
all our social media.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
people are not, surprised by, getting.
And I
getting
think
a
our police
citation.
department, as they do, they use good judgment. As this is the beginning of it, they're going to tell them stop flying and remove it from the premises.
Yeah.
And if they continue, then obviously they're going to start issuing some citations. Okay.
Is there a way we can put on the website that any ordinance that is passed at a meeting?
It does.
That it goes, well, I'm just trying to think if on the front face, the face cover, the website or the...
I think that's a discussion for another time. I have some
Okay.
personal opinion. Then all of a sudden, then you start to get it makes the website more confusing. That's what it just starts to junk it up. So.
Well, I know if you go into to try to look it up online, sometimes that really gets
No,
confusing.
All the minutes and the other things that are approved are put on.
Right, yeah, I know, okay. All right, thank you. Any more questions about that? That is actually, I will segue, we have 5 minutes. Segue into that was the first reading, that will be on a first reading about the drones. There are other first readings that we have for next week, which is a ordinance P20 2016 for the second ward. There is a traffic first reading, and then that's change of language, Commissioner, I believe it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm aware of that.
And let's see, then there's another first reading for ordinance P21 2016, and that has to do with the pension employees' benefits. Is there any question or concerns about that?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I thought there was supposed to be a handicap space for 320 Glengarry for this, because, is that on here, Larry?
Yeah, it came in after this was done, so it'll be on next week.
Okay. And I have just a quick update.
Okay, super. Yes, I'm sorry, okay, we have to do committee reports. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about anything on next week's agenda? All right, and I'm sorry that, I just want to acknowledge the gentleman in the audience. We heard you, but sometimes we can't acknowledge it because we can't go back and forth and all. So, committee reports, Commissioner?
Thank you. Zoning and Planning Committee report about the comprehensive plan. The Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code requires municipalities with a comprehensive plan to review and update it at least once every 10 years to maintain the viability of the plan as a living document. Though there have been 2 amendments since the 1988 plan was adopted, this board committed $25,000 toward the creation of a new forward-thinking comprehensive plan as an essential planning tool. On July 26, I called the Planning and Zoning Committee meeting to kick off discussion on the project. The subject of that agenda was to whether to join with one or more adjoining municipalities for a multi-municipal comprehensive plan. The committee was joined by staff and a local planner who provided information on the estimated costs associated with the new plan based on community size, availability of grant monies, and benefits of an exclusive versus a joint comprehensive plan. Copies of this presentation were distributed to the commissioners. The committee finds that a multi-municipal plan adds 3 specific benefits. 1, allows more big-picture approach to planning for land use, transportation planning, and shared infrastructure review, and that would be trails, rails, roadways, and business districts. 2, providing funding advantage for grant completion for implementation opportunities. And 3, takes advantage of the economy of scale for the comprehensive plan with funding priority given to multi-municipal studies. Assuming there will be board interest to pursue a joint plan, we have been in touch with Haverford Township and confirm interest in a shared study. We could also reach out to other communities for interest. But if the board prefers to go it alone, I'd ask that additional funds be provided for the approximately $50,000 cost for a basic study. It's up to the board, but from what we were told, the more we share a joint plan, it's better for grant money. It's something that we should share the cost with as well.
The state likes the multi-municipal planning, so they're more likely to give you more money for a multi-municipal plan than they would for if you did it by yourself. And then a multi-municipal plan costs less than, because you're shared costs.
Shared funds, yep.
Yep. All right.
All right, and as far as taking action on that, that would be under
New
any
business.
new business.
Thank you.
At the next meeting. Does anybody else have any committee reports?
Can we just put it on the agenda instead of doing it?
If you'd like.
I don't know, we take a vote?
No. I mean, you could just request that you put it on the agenda for next week. That's
Yeah. Just put it on the agenda for next week.
All right.
That's all.
You can put it on the agenda, you don't necessarily have to vote on it. I mean, you can
Right.
put it on the agenda, talk about it, and then, continue it to
concern
another
is
time.
that we don't just bring it up under new business so people aren't aware,
Okay.
and maybe
Right.
somebody would have
That's a
public
better-
comment.
And I know it won't be advertised, so well, if we can add.
Larry, can you
add
put that-
to it.
Yeah, you just put it on.
What's that?
This. I'll talk to you about it. Just hold on to it.
Okay.
Okay.
If nobody has anything else, I want to thank all the reports that we had tonight, the presentations. Thank you very much for all the time and effort that you put into your committees and everything that has to go down in front of the Board of Commissioners. I want to thank the commissioners also. This was a very comprehensive work session.
Yeah, Chris, can I just mention, since I won't be here next week, the 2 things coming up, of course, is here in Oakmont with Kevin McCluskey. The Oakmont Music Fest will be September the 10th. And it's
Kevin
from,
McCluskey Music Fest.
wait a minute,
Nice.
it's in Oakmont, Third Ward, so it's Kevin McCluskey here at 12 to 9 p.m. That's the music fest they have here in Oakmont.
you long, didn't
And
it?
October the
What's that?
1st, Johnny Viola mentioned the fact that down at Haverford Township Day, everyone is invited, for those that will be willing to stand up for the country, because of our police officers are leading this parade. And if you want to be like the fellow from San Francisco who decides to sit down, please don't come to the event. Other than that, please come to the event.
Are you going to be you're not going to be the MC again, are you?
No.
Yeah, I'll take a crack at
God,
crack at that. So.
All right, thank you. I'll take a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.